Hello, Robert.
Hello, hi
Yes,
boss.
yes.
Okay,
So I have to run another 3 p.m. meeting, so I will be leaving slightly earlier.
okay, Ken,
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. Okay, yeah.
All right. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Okay, welcome to the talk on the special programs in science. Right, so my name is Robert. I'll be giving this talk on behalf of our director, Professor Liu Yichen, who is also in the room as well. So I guess the idea of the talk is to give you an idea of what is SPS, how does SPS, integrates with your majors, and what are some of the courses that you'll be doing in SPS. So the first question is, what is the special program in science? So the special programs in science is an academic integrated science program that was established in 1996, so 29 years ago. So essentially, this is an academic program. So it's not a CCA, right? So essentially, it is a talent development program under the Faculty of Science. The main purpose or the main goal of SPS is to nurture students' interest in research, okay, in particularly research in their own discipline and also more recently research in interdisciplinary science. So essentially the academic program and its courses and the environment is structured in such a way that we encourage students to pursue their passion for scientific research and learning. So essentially, as I probably mentioned, this is under the Faculty of Science. So our students that are enrolled in this program comes from essentially the various departments under the Faculty of Science. Right. So essentially, why do we need SPS? Why is it useful to have SPS? So as you all probably know, scientific research in the 21st century has become multidisciplinary. The challenges that we face, such as climate change, clean energy, and water technology, are problems that requires multiple disciplines to come together to solve. You also realize that essentially in this 21st century science, programming is a skill that you must have the ability to essentially, collect data, manipulate data, and present data is essentially an essential skills that all science students should have. And most importantly, as mentioned, this is essentially a collaborative program because collaboration is required in order to solve these multidisciplinary problems as well. So essentially in SPS, we aim to present or environment where we nurture students' interest in multidisciplinary science. A core part of our curriculum is essentially programming, and also we also encourage students from different majors to work together during class as well. So, prospective SPS students. So, students who are interested in enrolling SPS should have already enrolled in CHS and declare a science major, right? So, you should declare some of the majors here as well, right? So, essentially, because we run a very small program and usually we keep our class size very small so that we have very high active learning and maximum interactions between the students and the staff, we usually select the students through a student interview program. So freshmen usually who are selected into SPS will essentially start their SPS program in the first year, first semester. And upon completion of the SPS curriculum, you'll be awarded an official certificate of completion after this. Right. So essentially, as mentioned, right, so the program essentially aims to nurture scientists to work on multidisciplinary problem. So the staff that actually teaches and administrate this program also come from various discipline, right? So essentially, we have Prof. Liu, who is essentially from biological science, Dr. Chamika from physics, myself also from biological science, and Linda from chemistry as well. We also have two teaching assistants who also help us with the teaching and mentoring of SPS students. So Chion and Ryan both have varied interests and discipline as shown on the slide as well. The SPS curriculum consists of 6 courses. So as mentioned, this is an academic program. Students complete 6 courses in order to complete the SPS program. So 3 of the courses highlighted in blue here at the top essentially are courses that you complete during the first year of your SPS program. So your SP 2273, 2274, and 2271. What I also like to point out here at this point is that essentially by completing 2273, 2274, and 2271, you not only complete the requirements to SPS, you also fulfill your requirement to some of your CHS common curriculum pillar. For example, 2273 will fulfill your CHS digital literacy pillar. 2274 will fulfill your CHS scientific inquiry 1 pillar, and 2271 will fulfill your CHS writing pillar as well. So in the second year, SP students will take on SP 3275, 3176, and SP 3172. What is different from the first year courses and the second year courses is the first year courses, which are the courses highlighted in blue, are courses that essentially are also open to all students who are enrolled in CHS. So not only just SPS students who are interested to take particularly one of the courses can also enroll in the course. However, for the year 2 SPS courses, right, as shown in black here, essentially these courses are only open to students who are enrolled in the SPS program. So your SP 3275, okay, will also help you fulfill your CHS scientific inquiry 2 pillar as well. So you basically, when you complete at least 4 of the SPS courses, it not only help you in your journey to complete the SPS program, but also essentially helped you essentially uh, clear some of your CHS common curriculum pillar as well, right? So beyond year 3, we have SPS mentorship, which I will touch on a little bit on later on in the presentation. I think what I will do in the next few slides is to give you some of the give you some ideas of some of the courses that you'll be taking in the SPS program. Right, so essentially, as mentioned, the overall goal of the SPS program is to nurture scientists, to essentially grow students' passion and interest in research. When you do research, learning how to read scientific paper is an essential skill that you must learn. Right, so essentially 2271, which is the first course that will be taught to you to introduce to you the scientific literature. So in this course, you will learn how to look for research paper, you will learn how to read research paper, pick up the most important point of a research paper, and critique scientific finding. And lastly, you also learn how to communicate science in an accessible way to everyone as well. Another part of scientific inquiries is essentially SP2273, right, which is your computational thinking courses. Right, so essentially in this course, you will learn to use Python, right? So you will learn to use Python to essentially analyze data for scientific experiments, analyze data for science, right? So essentially, the feature of the course requires you to break down complex problem into more straightforward, more manageable tasks, construct computational strategies, and apply them to problems in interdisciplinary science. Obviously, both the skills taught in SP2271 and SP2273 are not only useful within the course itself, it is also used in your later in courses later on in your SPS curriculum, such as SP2274, 3275, 3176, and 3172 as well. So essentially, you can think of these two courses as the foundations skills to scientific research that all scientists, regardless of what major and discipline that you're interested in, should have. So in order to nurture students' interest in scientific research and inquiry, a lot of our courses are based on interdisciplinary science or multidisciplinary science. And I won't go through the features of each of these courses. If you're interested to know what are the topics of each courses, you may go and Google them later. But what I would like to point out here is essentially, right, so most of these courses are project-based collaborative learning. So essentially within the courses, we will embed a scientific research project in which groups of students will work together to perform scientific research either in the lab or in the field, right? So in this slide, if you see the photo below, this is essentially a snapshot of a scientific project that the student did in SP3275. at St. John Island. So in this particular project, students essentially spend 2 days, 1 night on St. John Island, essentially working on a, let's say, ecological based project as well. Many of these so-called projects are essentially small group learning, and they are often guided or taught by senior students of the SPS program or even staff mentor. So essentially in this content-based course, we aim to provide you with a lot of hands-on work in teams, right? So essentially teamwork, learning how to collaborate with one another is very important. And through these courses, you will learn to work with your peers from different majors or from different discipline as well. So the highlight of every SPS student is this course SP3172, which is an integrated science project. As the name suggests, right? So this is a science project, this is a research project. Essentially, groups of students will essentially come together by their common interests, and they will look for a PI, right? The principal investigator or lab head, and then work on a research project under the PI, right? So this kind of research project essentially is a group based. It is also a much more gentle introduction to, let's say, to undergraduate research opportunity program. And what is unique about SP3172 is essentially the projects are supervised by both a lab head and also guided by our own SPS senior mentors as well. So similar to essentially research projects in the real world, we also provide opportunities for students to present their research work in the form of a poster session and in the form of an oral presentation. So the way we do this in SP3172 is we organize what we call a Congress Day, which is like a very conference-like presentation day where groups of students will present their work. So if you can see, here are some photos of some of the past SPS students presenting at the posters, presenting at the oral presentation as well. Usually these sessions are not only attended by your own peers, but they're also attended by senior SPS students and the SPS community. So it makes a very lively discussion and puts a very nice end to the SPS program as well. So if you are thinking, right, so if what I say so far resonate with what your goals are or what you like to do in the SPS program, here in this slide I will show how we will integrate the SPS courses within your major as well, right? So this is a very typical study plan for SPS student. So in semester 1, year 1, you complete your SP2273, SP2274, and then you also do your CHS core curriculum module. And most of the time, right, all students who have declared primary major will also do their gateway modules as well. So in year 1, SEM 2, you will do the SP2271, and then in year 2, SEM 1, you do your SP3275 and SP3176. So for SP3176 and SP3172, the course credit are count under your unrestricted elective pillar as well. So basically, you can see that essentially when you join SPS, when you take SPS courses, essentially we are not asking you to take extra courses, right? So essentially, majority of the SPS courses can be mapped to your CHS common curriculum pillar, and also just by seeing from this study plan that I presented on the slide, you'll see that essentially, the SPS courses doesn't actually interfere with your courses from your primary major or even a minor that you want to take as well, right? So essentially, this is a typical study plan that SPS students use when they join SPS. Right, so some information about the course. So as I mentioned, right, the year 1 SPS courses, the SP2271, SP2273, and SP2274 are offered to all CHS students and SPS students. So maybe if you are come to this talk, you're unsure that, SPS is a program for you. So what you can do is essentially you can take our 3 first-year courses and apply again in year 2. Right, so when you apply again in year 2, this is also subjected to availability of space within the cohort as well. So for the year one courses, you will need to pass uh, any two of the following A-level H2 subject. Basically, if you do any one of the sciences, biology, chemistry, or physics, and with one math, you will basically essentially meet the prerequisite requirements of the SPS courses. Right, so your SPS courses, for example, SP2274, uh, will be open for bidding, right? So when course rank open as well. As I mentioned, right, your year two SPS courses, your SP3275, SP3176, SP3172 are only offered to SPS students. And these students would have to complete the first three year one module in order to essentially enroll in the year two SPS courses. So essentially what you can see is essentially maybe you are interested in some of these courses, you want to take the courses, or maybe you're not very sure you want to join SPS at year one. But what I recommend, if you have a continuous interest in SPS, it is recommended that you complete 2271, 2273, and 2274 as well. So after SPS, after you've gone through 2 years of SPS, so what happens after that? Obviously, SPS is essentially more than just a 2-year academic program. Students from year 3 and year 4 will join us as a student mentor. Right, so essentially, when we use the word student mentor, besides being a peer mentor to your fellow students, to junior as well, both the junior and the senior mentors are involved in teaching of the SPS courses. As I mentioned just now, a lot of our SPS courses involves small group project or small group work or group work that requires essentially supervision from a mentor or a staff as well. So essentially, most of the time when you're taking the courses within the program, majority of the mentors that will be your TAs in those courses as well, right? So this is essentially a lifelong relationship. Beyond after you finish your year 4, you can be a graduate mentor and continue to impart knowledge as well. So student mentorship is very helpful for student to develop. So there's no cost credit, okay, to student mentorship. But what happens in student mentorship is students develop leadership ability, students develop the ability to essentially solve problems, they develop the ability to essentially learn people to people skill. How do you essentially interact with somebody from your junior? How do you interact with people from somebody who is, um, not very comfortable with essentially the curriculum or situation at the moment. So essentially, most of our junior and senior mentors, okay, will gain a lot of soft skill after doing mentorship for 2 years as well. Of course, these soft skills are essentially important when you go out to the workplace where you're expected to essentially work with one another, work with your peers, work with somebody, your boss, and also mentor junior staff as well. Besides SPS mentorship, we also encourage SPS students to participate in international science competition. Here are, on this slide are 2 science competition that we've participated in the past. So the first one is the International Genetic Engineered Machine. This is a synthetic biology um, competition in which essentially students use the principle of synthetic biology to essentially build some sort of device to solve some sort of problem. The other tournament or the other competition that we've gone through in the past is the International Natural Science Tournament, right? So essentially in this science tournament, students essentially work on problems that don't have a defined answer, and then they present their ideas and problems to a jury and debate with one another within an international context as well. So both competitions are international. It allows students to gain exposure beyond essentially their textbooks and curriculum. It also allows students to learn, right, work on scientific research project that is of their interest as well. In addition, we also have some student exchange. So essentially, we often have interactions between GLEAP, which is essentially a student organization from the Seoul University. So essentially, GLEAP, I would say in a very simple sense, is the Korean version of SPS. So essentially, they will come and visit us every 2 years, essentially. So we have interactions with their students. So essentially, when they come, we just don't have we have a structured program for them to encourage interactions between the GLEAP students and the SPS student. These include essentially, participating in scientific challenges, as you've seen here, right? Essentially, this was taken this year from the visit by the GLEAP student. We also arrange lectures or guest seminars by renowned faculties within Singapore or NUS, essentially in order to expose these GLEAP students and even our own SPS on the cutting edge research within NUS and Singapore as well. So usually there's a good student exchange. You can make contacts with students or friends from Korea, and who says you may go to visit them one day as well. Right. So at the end, I hope in this last few slides, I convince you why you should apply to SPS. The next question you're going to ask, so how am I going to apply to SPS? Where does the application open? Okay, so this slide is about application to SPS. So essentially, right, the SPS, essentially you apply through our website. So if you scan, right, so if you have a phone, you can scan the QR code. It will go to this SPS admission exercise page. Right, so essentially, as I mentioned, we have a sort of a student interview for our applicants as well. So essentially, what happens is essentially after you submit your application, you will have to read 4 popular science articles that's listed on the website. Right, the reason why we ask you to read these 4 popular science articles is you will be discussing them in a group interview. So usually we will essentially slot you into an interview slot 2 to 3 working days after you submit your application as well. So usually, as mentioned, this is a group interview, group of 3 to 4 students, right? So essentially you will discuss the scientific articles and essentially solve a scientific challenge as well. So the result of your application will be released on a rolling basis. What it means is essentially if you apply early and if you are accepted in the program, we'll let you know as soon as we have your result as well, right? So essentially we'll send out all results of the application by the 24th of July. So whether you are accepted into the program or you somehow didn't make it into the program, you will get an email from us by the 24th of July. For students who essentially are accepted into the program or are offered a chance to be in the program, essentially that's the deadline as well, right? So essentially this is the QR code to go in. Essentially it's quite intuitive. You can click the welcome. It gives you the instruction, what you need to do before you apply the application form and the interview format as well. Right, so in summary, right, so I hope that I've given you a good idea of what SPS is. SPS is a research-focused curriculum. We expose students to interdisciplinary topics in science and working with students with different major. So a key part of our classes is we encourage students to learn through active learning, in which during the classes, students are working on a learning activity together, right? Not necessarily listening to a lecture as well. So we hope that through this program, we can nurture students' interest in research, develop strong scientific communication skills, and by use of the mentorship and also the student exchange program, we hope to actually provide students with holistic learning and growth, maybe leadership, perhaps leadership development, and also, for students or freshmen who are interested in teaching, right, or not sure about teaching, SPS mentorship is also a good way to teach as well. So with that, I think this is my last slide. So this last slide I have is the SPS application timeline. So we already opened our application 16th of June. So if you have, you probably have received an email from us on this as well. So we are collecting application ongoing. We're interviewing students ongoing as well. So what is critical here in this table, right? So the last date to apply is 18th of July, 6 o'clock. So essentially by that time, okay, if you're interested to apply SPS, you should put in your online application. This is the final date of interview, 21st of July, right? So essentially, right, so if you submit by 18, this is the latest that you get. You'll have an interview slot, and then 24th will let you know your date, right? So here, here I leave the QR code for you to scan to go into essentially the application page. If you have any other questions, okay, or questions that are not addressed by the information on the web page, please feel free to write to this email applications@sps.nus.edu.sg. So with that, I will finish my talk and I'll open the floor to question. Give me a moment. Okay, so okay, so first, there's a question. Is it possible to do a second major together with the SPS program? And will this need some degree of overloading? Most of our students currently in the SPS program, they will do second major in SPS, second major, right? So, and also or minor as well, right? So essentially, I would say that SPS is not essentially a very easy program, right? So it's meant to nurture and train students in scientific research, but it's possible to do it as well. Lots of SPS students have managed to do a second major together with their SPS program, right? So I don't think you need some degree of overloading. I don't think so. If there is, there's probably a little bit, not as major, because I think a second major requirement is slightly less than a primary major. Okay, so I have next two questions from Darren. So I have two inquiries. If I'm attending UTCP along with SPS in year one S1, which module will I take and which one will I need to reschedule? Right, so if you're doing the UTown College program, right, so the UTown College program requires you to do their writing module, right? So in order for you to complete your UTown College program, you have to do their writing module. But in order to complete the SPS program, basically you also have to do essentially the SP2271 courses as well. But obviously, right, so obviously you have to do two writing if you're in the UTown College program. But what is of benefit is essentially both writing courses have different focus, right? So essentially in SP2271 is more focused on scientific research, scientific writing, right? So essentially you will need to essentially take that as well. Okay, so the SPS website say we need to drop two courses to make room for 2273 and 2274. Which courses will we be able to drop? Right, so I think the course that you'll be able to drop, right? The issue here, right, is essentially for 2274, right, if you're allocated, let's say scientific inquiry one, you can exchange for it. So it's a one-for-one exchange. So no worries. Right, for 2273, right, essentially you cannot drop, let's say, the social science to do essentially a 2273, right? So you will have to be able to essentially drop another courses to fit into 2273. Usually for SPS freshmen, right, we usually give them extra module credit in the first year so that they can slightly overload as well. Acceptance being sent out already. Acceptance will be sent out this week. We've already got the list from our applicants from last week as well. What is the earliest date that applicants that acceptance will be sent out? Acceptance will be sent out, I think, this week as well. As I mentioned, this will be on a rolling basis as well. So there's a question. Hi, may I know for the integrated science project, will we be doing projects focusing on primary major, or do we have to do projects that focus on other scientific discipline? Okay, so this is a very interesting question and essentially something that differentiates the integrated science project from your UROPS project, right? So when you do a UROPS project, you're primarily doing a project that is in your primary major. For the integrated science project, you can do a research project focusing on your primary major, let's say in life science or physics. But you also have the option, okay, this is an option for the student to do a project that focus on other scientific discipline. For example, I had life science student doing a quantum physics project before, right? So essentially that is doable as well. I also had students who essentially from life science doing, let's say, computational based project as well. So that's possible as well. Hello, would it be possible to combine both NUSC and SPS? Yes, it is possible to combine both NUSC and SPS. Right. So some of the courses in SPS will also help to fulfill some of the requirements of your NUSC. So the key thing is when if you have anybody is doing and you thinking of doing NUSC and SPS is essentially right. So the writing module, right? So you have to do one writing module for SPS, one writing module for NUSC. I think the digital literacy is something that I think you can essentially use SP2273 to essentially cover the NUSC requirement. For SP2274, you also can do that as well, right? So as part of your scientific inquiry one. But the important thing here is for students doing who are in NUSC and considering to do SPS program, in order for those credits, module credit to be transferred to NUSC, you must complete the SPS program. When I say complete the SPS program means you have to essentially complete the 6 different courses as well. Okay, so I think that's the last of the question. Any other questions from anyone? You can unmute yourself and essentially so the question, there's an Q&A. May I ask if these slides will be sent to us and when? I'm not sure I don't think the slides will be sent, but there will be a recording. The recording will be shared. Would you recommend SPS if I wish to explore in depth about what I want to do scientific during my first year? Yes, highly recommend that you do SPS. Can the course S2273 be used to satisfy the requirements of reading CS 1010S to obtain a second major or minor in computing? No. So if you want to do a second major or minor in computing, CS 1010S is something that you have to do. Okay, I've got more questions. As a math major, we are required to take CS 1010S or its variant to fulfill the digital literacy requirement. Does this mean that we have to take the SP2273 separately? Yes, you will have to take SP2273 separately because you will need that to complete the SPS program. Other questions? Anybody with more questions? Anybody wants to ask questions about the interview process or anything? Other questions? No more questions. Is the interview purely a discussion about the article? Right. Okay. So for the interview, right, essentially you will have to read 4 articles, but you do not know which article will be discussed during the interview as well. Right. So during the interview, the article discussion is one part of the interview. Right. So the first, basically, I would say, one part of the interview. Another part of the interview will be essentially getting to know more of your essential interest in SPS, your motivation as well, right? So, and we also have a problem solving segment in the interview as a group activity as well. Will SPS allow me to better qualify for PhD in NUS? I think what the SPS experience has given many of our current students and alumni is essentially a good grounding in research. Okay, so essentially they learn to do research quite early on. They also learn a lot about scientific communication, which is also helpful when they apply for graduate school, either in NUS or overseas as well. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, give anybody 1 minute, 2 minutes before I close the session. Okay, there's no more questions. So thank you very much for attending this session. We hope to receive your application and see you at SPS. All right, thank you very much. See you. Bye bye.